Okay, guys, I just got done recording part 7. Let's get part 8 done. Threads in Libeskelf's grasp. As that bolt upright, startled and the goddess' expression relaxed. Libeskelf, the goddess of binding, was the only one still wearing a frown. Goodness, what a disappointment, she groused. You went into the past and got nothing from it, I would not say nothing, I muttered in response. I might have been too heavy-handed in confessing to Lord Wilfrid, but the experience had taught me plenty. I truly had gained a lot from the trip. Well, I would. Although you let your heart bare to Wilfrid, I couldn't bind your threads together at all. Here I was hoping to do little old Hannelore a kindness, since you always go to the trouble of praying to me. Aw, she was trying to do you a solid. But sadly, no. If only you could have undone it, and then things might not have been as bad. The goddess groaned. She was clearly vexed, but I could not mask my elation as I said, I'm glad my offerings have reached you, O holy Libeskelf. Your efforts to repay me are an honor beyond my worth. I thank you ever so much. With just a little more time, everything could have gone wonderfully. Why did you have to break the taboo? The goddess of binding asked, pursing her lips. Dragana placed a hand on Libeskelf's shoulder, assuring her that she was not to blame. Then, turning toward me, she continued, As I warned you, Hannelore, I have erased all memories connected to your journey to the past. It will be as though we had never sent you back. Okay, good. So now her friendship with Wilfrid has now been repaired. Good. She explained the history will revert to its original course. Everyone will forget my 4th-year confession to Lord Wilfrid, the understanding I reached with Cordula and my other retainers, my leadership in restoring our gathering spot, and my triumph over the Hellwolves. I understand, O holy Dragana, but could you leave my memories as they are? I came to many valuable revelations during my time in the past, and I would not wish to forget them. Very well, let these revelations be my kindness to you. I nodded. I would cherish my new memories above all else. Still, what a surprise, Libeskelf mused aloud. Who would have thought that Wilfrid of all people was the object of your affection? Come again, I asked, blinking at her. It was you who severed the tie between your threads in the first place. I think you would go all the way back to the past to repair the damage. Humans truly are strange. Huh? What do you mean, I asked. My head tilted in complete and utter bewilderment. The goddess of binding mirrored the gesture. You prayed for it, did you not? For my connection with Lord Wilfrid to be severed? Not to my knowledge, no. Well, your prayer reached me. It was a rather strong one, too. Huh? She waved her hand, and a metallic surface materialized in the air. In it, I could see myself. Judging by the furniture and such, I was back in my room in the dormitory. When too many prayers arrive at once, I am unable to comprehend them all, Libeskelf explained. I set aside the particular strong ones to review them in isolation. To think this is how we look to them. It felt as though I were gazing into the water mirror we used for communication. I watched my past self speak with Cordula in a panic, then start praying with a desperate look on her face. Oh, Libeskelf, goddess of binding, I thank you ever so much for the blessings you bestowed upon me. You have done enough. Because of you, I have now more options than I ever thought possible. I do not require any more. Is that what you... What? Praise be to the God... What the fuck? In the face of so many confessions, I did not ask to have any more choices. Or I did ask to not have any more choices. I see you remember then, Libeskelf said. When I received your prayer, I ensured her that I would not be bound to anyone but your suitors at the time. What a disaster! To think it was my own prayer that cost me whatever future I might have had with Lord Wilfrid. Seriously? You took it as that? So what, is Ortwin also an option at this point? Because if so, I'd go with him. It was surprising enough that my words had reached the goddess, let alone that they had restricted my choice of suitors to those I wished to be with, or who had proposed to me at that moment in time. So Ortwin is your best option at this point, if you wanted to still get out of the duchy. I had not confessed to Lord Wilfrid or even recognized my feelings for him until after praying to Libeskelf. Just how poor can my timing be? I muttered as the world around me began to sway. The goddess of time rested a hand on her cheek and sighed. It hardly seemed poor to me. Libeskelf will bind any two threads together, but there is no guarantee they will mesh well. Some combinations turn out to be quite poor. You chose to withdraw, did you not? Forcefully attempting to mend a severed connection seldom ends well. Excuse me? Did she consider Lord Wilfrid and me a poor match? I mean, considering what you just learned in the past, it probably would have been. I turned my focus to the more cooperative goddess of binding, hoping she would protest. As long as they desire it, what does it matter? Libeskelf asked. True lovers will accept any misfortune that befalls their union, and watch them suffer is such a delight. Work can be so dull. Should we not seek entertainment where we can... You get entertainment out of this? Oh my god! Beneath her amiable grin, I suddenly behold a bottomless well of malice. To the gods, watching us go about our lives and granting our wishes were both their duty and a form of amusement. Work is work. It must be treated with the utmost seriousness, Dragoner said, and while I tolerate your tendency to treat everything as a game, I would rather you refrain from toying with my threads. What's the problem? More strange bindings? More fun. Are you serious? And once I recalled Lady Rosemine's warning that the gods existed in a world entirely separate from our own. She had no doubt witnessed their immense power and unreasonable behavior when receiving the Gutashite from Mestanor, the goddess of wisdom. I cannot be more thankful that Libeskel's divine power did not alter the past. Has Lady Rosemine not yet returned, I asked, my voice quivering as I tried to change the subject. Dragana was becoming more and more agitated from her conversation with the goddess of binding. In truth, the answer was obvious. My return to the present had come about as a result of my own actions, not Lady Rosemine's completion of her work. And when Tuck, the goddess of weaving, refused to look away from her loom. Still, my endeavor proved successful. Dragana sighed, letting her anger fade, and directed her gaze toward Wed Tuck's hands. As the threading question was cut in several places, her work will take quite some time. However, I can confirm that she has safely repaired one section. I want to know what she does! I want to know! Hearing about Lady Rosemine's progress put my mind at ease. Everything seemed to be going well, which was more than I could say from my trips to the past. You are here in mind alone, Hannelore, Dragana reminded me. Do not wait for Rosemine. Return to your body. It will not last without you. I nodded as I did not understand the ways of the gods or their culture. Any number of problems could arise from me staying here. In response, the goddess raised a hand to return me to my world. Oh, holy Dragana, I thank you ever so much for allowing me to keep my memories. And thank you for granting me the use of your body. I shall respect the history that Wentuck has woven with Lady Rosemine's and your aid, the goddess said with a smile. Please rest easy. As my vision faded to white, I found solace in knowing that the past 2 decades would not be lost. I can rest assured, I thought, but then the goddess of binding forced her way back into view. I didn't get the chance to thank you for all your prayers. This time I've made it so you can pick whoever you want. Wait. Hold on. What? Dude, you couldn't have said that before? You couldn't have done that before. So she could choose Wilfred, but does she want to now? That's the question. Does she want to? Maybe we'll find out. Her tone was kind, but something about her declaration made me uneasy. What could possibly happen next? Continue to send me your gratitude, Libeskelf exclaimed, her bright voice getting quieter and quieter. I'll be waiting. Given all that she had done, the thought of praying to her again scared me. But equally terrifying was the idea of refusing a straightforward request from a genuine goddess. I was lost for what to do. In either scenario, my future felt unbearably bleak. I awoke in blue liquid. A Jareve? Cordial noticed my eyes open and assisted me as I tried to sit up. Is that you, Lady Hannelore? She asked. The concern in her voice spoke to the impact of the goddess of time's descent. Indeed it is, I assured her with a nod. This is my bath, correct? Am I sitting in a Jareve? Yes, Lady Rosemine advised that we soak you in one until your consciousness returned. Had we not, your mana would have hardened as the absence of your conscious mind caused your body to waste away. I am glad to see you as well. As the bath is currently in use, forgive me, but I must perform a washing to cleanse you. Well, I mean, that's fine. As my retainer, it was considered inappropriate for Cordula to point her staff at me. I understand why she would apologize, but given the circumstances, it was the only way to wash the Jareve from my body. I will speak on your absence once you are changed, she continued in a hurried tone once she was done. Things have become quite problematic in your absence. Her usual poise was gone, and it worried me to see her so openly concerned. What happened? How long has she been gone? Looking around, I could not see any of my other retainers. My head attendant set about dressing me on her own. Cordula, where is everyone? I shall tell you what happened as I understand it. Stay strong of heart, milady. Huh? What the fuck happened? That's what I want to know. I'm kind of scared to find out what happened. Strong of heart. What on earth happened in my absence? Cordula's words took me completely by surprise. I steadied my breathing and steeled my resolve, then gave a slow nod. Even after leaving the changing room and returning to my bedroom, I saw no sign of anyone else in my retinue. How much time had passed? I have yet to inform anyone that you are awake, my head attendant explained as she poured me some tea. I thought you might need time to process what I'm about to share with you. I took a sip of my drink and a comforting warmth spread through me. It was then that I realized just how cold the Jarif had made me feel. Please, take a seat as well, Cordula, I said, facing her directly. It must have been exhausting caring for me while I was unconscious, and I doubt your story is a brief one. She eyed me for a moment, then said, You seem to have changed somewhat, milady, before sitting down. Now, where to begin? I should warn you that my knowledge of what transpired at the gazebo is far from perfect. Should you have any questions when I'm done, I can arrange for cantrips to speak with you as well. Cordula spoke in the moment when Dragana had seized control of my body and the great beam of light that had appeared. As soon as the goddess made contact with Lady Rosemine, I had crumbled to the ground, teetering on the brink of death. It was then that Lady Rosemine advised that I be immersed in a Jarif. We had no choice but to contact Dracofalgar, have Lord Lestelas send the Jarif he made prior to his engagement, and then soak you in it while we awaited your return from the world of the gods. You have been here since then, but that is far from the end of the story. Cordula paused, lowering her eyes in thought. As I recall, the trouble started with Karinstam, she eventually said. They insisted that it was cruel to make a saint joined to the goddess of time marry an arch-noble. Then their proposed, citing his royal blood as ample reason. No. Hell no! We are not having you marry that. No. That makes no sense, I uttered. It is a father's decision whom his daughter weds. If the people of Karinstam take issue with my engagement candidates, then they should challenge us to bride-stealing dinner. As much as Lord Sigistwald was trying to leverage his former status, he was not doing so through the proper channels. They asserted that as you have yet to choose a suitor, they have no reason to consider you engaged. Indeed, nothing has been formally arranged. I suspect Father would also have found it difficult to refuse a former royal. Never had I expected Lord Sigistwald to use his position to try and force an engagement. Still, Father held a rather low opinion of the former prince. If marrying into Karinstam did not appeal to me, he would do what he could to help me refuse. Your father carefully declined the proposal, explaining his desire to have you stay in Dunkelfelder. It was then that, Oh no, Orwin, no! You're not helping this position here! Oh my god. Oh my god, Orwin, I know you have good intentions with this, and you're probably the best choice in this matter, but dear Lord Almighty, now is not the time. It was then that Lord Orwin of Drawanko made his own proposal. Lord Orwin? But why? Was there no end to the surprises? If my memory served me right, he had been there when I confessed to Lord Wolfried. Why then had he proposed to me again? I'm guessing to make it official, so that way he could officially pursue you if you choose to pick him? So I guess your father would be okay with it? Was he so composed in the gazebo because he knew Lord Wolfried would turn me down? It would seem he is rather well informed on our duchy's customs, Cordula said. He expressed a desire to win your hand through bride-stealing dinner. Oh, no! How did that go, I wonder? Has it happened yet? I want to see it! Is my father aware? Might there be confusion and a lack of preparation between parties as there was last time? Lord Orwin knew about Dunkelfelder proposals, so I doubt he was rushing into things as carelessly as Lord Wolfried, but I remained cautious all the same. Both parties were on the same page, as I understand it. It was a formal arrangement for a match between Lord Orwin's duchy and ours. Dunkelfelder was much happier with his challenge than with Karinstam's bad faith, and accepted the petition out of hand, issuing orders for Rosentark and cantrips to protect you. But before the bride-stealing dinner could commence, Karinstam declared its intentions to participate. No! Oh no, the big free-for-all! The outcome was a messy free-for-all! Oh no! Who came out on top? And then, is there truly more? I groaned. Lord Rothberg announced that he also wished to participate! Oh no! He's gonna get his ass kicked! Rothberg's not winning, I can tell you that much. Ain't no way! He what? I exclaimed at the mention of my half-brother who had only taken an interest in me to pursue a life spent playing dinner. He can do that with anybody else. Why you? Cordula pinched the bridge of her nose, doubtless sharing my agony. He claimed it was within his rights to voice his opposition to the Archduke, and that by securing his rightful place as your husband, he can make you the next Ob Dunkelfelder. Lestela is set to be the Ob. Are you dumb, little boy? He ain't gonna give that up. It was an outright declaration of war against Lord Lestalot. Wait just a moment. No matter what bold declarations Rothric might make, I do not intend to oppose my brother. Nor do I think I would make a suitable op. No. No. This is all getting nuts. This is messy. Rothric's announcement had apparently sent a great shock through the nobles of our duchy. The Ob cannot accept Lord Ortwin's challenge in one breath and then deny Lord Rothric the right to participate in the next. Cordially explained, it would seem that Lord Rothric is using his retainers to rally those who are against Lord Lestalot and those who share his desire for you to become the next Ob. Oh no, it's a battle between factions now! Shit! Dunkelberger should have united around the suitors my father chose for me. Instead, Rothric's intervention had divided us, creating a critical weakness that prompted other duchies to extend their own challenges. Oh, so it hasn't happened yet. And so my head attendant said, an enormous game of bride-stealing dinner is about to be held to determine your groom. Who else is going to jump in and throw their hat in the ring this time? Is it going to be Wilfried? Is it going to be, good question. Are there any other male ones that we know of? I don't know. I really don't know at this point. Okay, I'm gonna have to edit this anyway. I gotta go. Being hailed in a chaotic fervor as the second divine avatar. How you act and the decisions you make will be of greater importance than ever before, she sighed. Matters are sure to escalate the moment your awakening is announced. I meant only to bid the others farewell. It was truly a coincidence that I was in a gazebo when I prayed. And the only reason Dragoner wished to use my body was to summon Lady Rosemine. I was not granted power or anything of the sort. How have things come to this? No sooner had the words passed my lips than I remembered the goddess of Binding's parting declaration that she wouldn't able to be pursue anyone I pleased. Not this way! Biblical stories abounded with tales of her pranks, and this demonstration of her might rendered me speechless. Please no, anything but this! The last time she intervened, it was my own fault, but this was completely unprovoked. I considered praying to Libeskelf in protest, but decided against it. Not a smart idea, because then you would think to piss her off if you tried to say, don't do this, please. Instead, I did everything I could to keep my mana from bursting free in my frustration. Epilogue! Oh no! Where are we at this point? Is this really going to be how it ends? Hang on. Regular reports for the Ob? Break time breakdown in an office in... Oh, no. Oh, dear Lord. Damn it, I didn't want to hit that. I wanted to hit the other one. There. Okay. Epilogue. The Dunkelfelder dormitory buzzed with activity after the Goddess of Time's descent into Hannelore and the wave of dinner challenges that followed. Things showed no sign of calming down. Here, Andrea said, Lindenthal gave me a letter for the Ob after classes today. Please add it to the pile. Does it never end? Kentrips asked, a weary smile crossing his face. Fine, leave it with me. There was little more he could do. Bride-stealing dinner challenges were arriving without end, and Dunkelfelder students were being treated as ordinances tasked with carrying student letters from one Ob to another. While students from other duchies took pride in the role, it had grown tiresome for Dunkelfelder, who found it hard to resist meeting each new letter with frustration. Cantrips, it's almost time to train, Rosentark said. As both Lestalot's guard knight and one of Hannelore's suitors, he was dedicating every moment he could to preparing for the upcoming dinner match. Then he glanced under the latest letter next to the growing stack of mail. What? Another one? Yes, another one, Cantrip said, skimming through its contents. At this point, something is clearly wrong. It's unthinkable that a lesser duchy, especially one as minor as Lindenthal, would challenge Dunkelfelder to bride-stealing dinner. I should very much like to find out who's pulling the strings. Leibeskelf. Leibeskelf is pulling the strings, and she's having so much fun with it. Crushing them all should resolve the matter. I will protect Lady Hannelore. I don't doubt that, Kentrips replied, but there was little else to say. He envied Rosentark's great strength and the assurance it gave him, yet he grudged his knightly single-mindedness. Brute force was no panacea? Panacea? What's that word? Is she still asleep? Rosentark asked. To my knowledge, Andrea brought me this letter. Had there been any changes in Lady Hannelore's condition, I trust she would have informed me. Cantrip carefully closed the box containing their many letters, then gazed toward Hannelore's room. Rosentark did the same. 10 days had passed since the incident, and still she was unconscious. Oh boy. This is interesting, guys. 10 days have passed. Okay, so who is talking at this point? Please accept my sincerest apologies, Lady Hannelore. As an Archduke candidate of Ehrenfest, I cannot risk sowing seeds of chaos or destruction in my duchy. Hannelore offered a sad smile and squeezed her wrist, a gesture Cantrip recognized as a sign that she was containing intense emotions. Her reaction was more than justified. She had just confessed to Wilfrid, only to be rejected in front of her peers. This was cruel of me, but Cantrip had given Hannelore the push she needed to propose, fully aware that her love would not be returned. You did it knowing that it wouldn't happen? Why? Then again, I guess it's just to give her that, knowing that she did it, or tried, and if she failed, she failed. She was stubborn to a fault, and would never have found closure unless she acted on her own and reached some kind of resolution. Had she agreed to marry one of her suitors while still interested in someone else, it would only have been a matter of time before her uncertainty brought about disaster. It was because Cantrip understood the importance of such closure for both Hannelore and the duchy as a whole that he had swallowed his own bitter affection and urged her to take action. She would surely weep for some time, as she had been known to do in her youth, but she would come to terms with her emotions and rise more capable than before. She has the strength to recover still. That doesn't change the pain she feels right now. Seeing the girl once labeled a crybaby doing all she could to contain her emotions, Cantrip took a step forward. Lady Hannelore, are you okay? Ortwin appeared just as concerned. He put down his sound blocker and suggested they end their meeting there. Hannelore agreed and set about bidding him and Wilfrid farewell. Uh-oh, here we go. This is where this happened. Allow me to offer prayers and gratitude to honor the goddess of time for weaving our threads together this day. As she spoke, a bright glow enveloped her wrist. Cantrip recognized the source as a charm made by Cordula, dedicated to the goddess of time. Its face stone carved with Dragoner's seal traced a magic circle in the air with slender whale light. What's going on? Those present could only watch in a daze as the magic circle took shape. They had no idea what was happening or what to do. The circle flashed, then rained down light that swiftly wrapped around Lady Hannelore. Her body rose into the air as though carried by invisible strings. Lady Hannelore! Cantrip exclaimed. He reached out in a desperate bid to free her. His hand was repelled, and a sharp pain rendered it numb. Leave, insolent ones, Hannelore said, opening scornful eyes. The relief that Cantrip and the others had felt at her being okay was painfully short-lived. That's not Lady Hannelore! That's Dragoner! Oh dear, this is not good. She continued to float in the air, enveloped in yellow light that now seemed to radiate from her. Her eyes had turned the same vivid shade, no longer their usual red, and the tenderness she normally exuded was gone. Instead, she emanated an overwhelming intensity that compelled all in her presence to kneel. Hannelore would probably have been aghast if she had known, but Cantrip was shocked to learn her face was even capable of such a domineering expression. I told you to leave, she repeated, waving her hand with a visible displeasure as she sat in midair. At once, everyone inside the gazebo, which now shone with yellow light, was expelled. Hannelore sat alone. Few could approach the gazebo in its current state, only Archduke candidates and archnobles from higher-ranking branch families. And even then, the younger students among them would stumble. Hannelore's retainers were scattered as well. I guess you need a certain amount of mana to even get close to the gazebo, Wilfrid observed. Cantrip turned just in time to see a crowd rushing out of the Scholar Building. They wanted a better look at the source of the commotion, but the goddess's power stopped them short. How close they could get provided a more precise measure of their mana than any one person's mana sensing. Wilfrid stood about 2 paces behind Cantrip's, indicating that their capacities were fairly similar. He has more mana than I expected. Not long ago, Ehrenfest was near the bottom of the duchy rankings. Now he has a capacity that rivals that of an Archduke candidate of a greater duchy. Wilfrid stood almost shoulder to shoulder with Ortwin. Cantrip thought only an archnoble was Cantrip's, though only an archnoble was Ob Dunkelfelder's nephew. He had never imagined that such a person would come so close to matching him. I am Dragoner, the ruler of time, the being that had taken Hannelore's form announced. As the charm on Hannelore's wrist had indicated, the goddess of time had indeed descended. Cantrips could feel the elation of those around him, aware that they were witnessing an event that would go down in history, but he did not share in it. A shudder ran through him as he feared what Hannelore's possession would mean for her. Oh, isn't good? There is an emergency of urgent nature, Dragoner said. Summon her who arbitrates between mankind and the gods. The Zent! Summon the Zent! Ortwin shouted. It was taught during theology class that the Zent served as an intermediary between humans and the gods. Someone within earshot shouted about sending her an ordinance or a magic letter if she was in the sovereignty. Others proposed asking the professors to use their emergency contact tool. Could she also be referring to Rosemine, Wilfried asked, considering Dragoner's demand from a different perspective. Cantrip's eyes widened at the audacity, but the goddess gave a confirming nod. Yes, Rosemine, bring her to me at once, she said. Disaster has befallen her other half. Oh, her other half. This is funny to see. Unless she intervenes, the Grutushite will vanish, and 2 decades of history will collapse. Dragoner's tone was calm, relaxed even, but everyone present drew its sharp breath. Though no one knew what had occurred, it must have been serious to warrant possessing Hannelore. In moments, fear and shock enveloped the garden. Rosemine, this is an emergency. Come to the gazebo by the Scholar Building now! As fearful cries debated what to do next, Wilfried sent out a single white bird. In most cases, one would consider his an unthinkably rude message to send to the opposite of the duchy. Whether she was his younger sister or not. But these were extenuating circumstances. Amid the chaos, he alone had kept his calm and acted with composure. Cantrips, in contrast, was at a complete loss. Despite being Hannelore's suitor, he knew not what he could do to help her. How can I end this possession? He took a sharp breath. No matter how he considered the situation, he could not foresee a positive outcome. Hannelore would be hailed as one chosen by the gods, as had happened to Rosemine, and duchies would mobilize en masse to secure the country's second divine avatar. The more Cantrips thought about it, the worse things seemed to get. Perhaps its possession was the first of many to come. Perhaps the gods would summon Hannelore out of the blue as they were doing with Rosemine. Would he be able to resolve such incidents? An overwhelming sense of worry and unease began to work its way through him. The ordinance returned, someone shouted, snapping Cantrips back to his senses. And yet the white bird bore no message. It returned to Wilfried perched on his wrist, and then simply reverted to being a yellow face stone. One person shrieked that Rosemine must have died, and the panic reached a fever pitch. If she died, then Ferdinand would have died. All her other names would have died. The Zent would have died. Not good. If she truly had passed on, there would be no way to satisfy the goddess. She was merely out of range, came a quiet yet severe voice. Track her down at once. The light radiating from Hannelore's body intensified, and the divine power she exuded swelled so much that those around her could barely even breathe. Her brief admonishment silenced the clamor and compelled everyone to kneel. Will Lady Hannelore's body be able to endure this much divine power? Cantrips dared not ask. He could not risk angering the goddess with such an impudent question. He forced his head up and started giving instructions. Send ordinances to all of Lady Rosemine's retainers and several students of her duchy. Explain the circumstances and insist that she come at once. As responses trickled in, it became clear that an emergency in Alexandria had made it necessary for Rosemine to return home as the duchy's ob. No! What the heck is going on there? Dragoner, the gods of time, it would seem that Lady Rosemine has gone to Alexandria, and it might be some time before she returns, Cantrip explained. The sun is setting. Shall we wait somewhere warmer? I cannot leave this magic circle, the goddess replied. Anyone who takes issue with the cold may simply depart. I do not have business with any of you. No, I shall stay by Lady Hannelore's side. So be it. Professors and Archduke candidates edged closer, taking advantage of their sizable mana capacities as they strained to glimpse the gods of time. Meanwhile, Cordialis sent ordinances back to the Dunkelfelder dormitory, seeking to mobilize Hannelore's retainers and the duchy's apprentice archknights. It was a rather messy situation. Lady Rosemine, hurry! There she is! Make way, everyone, make way! Cries eased the ever-growing anxiety. So long had passed that many of those gathered had completely lost track of time. The crowd parted, forming a path for the new arrival to reach the gazebo. So what the fuck is going on? What happened in Alexandria? Rosemine was dressed in strange attire, covered with face stones and magic tools. Her hair was in a single ponytail, a far cry from her usual, more intricate style. She looked noticeably similar to when she had appeared at Dunkelfelder's country gate. Coupled with a severe look on her face, one could not help but feel that she had come prepared for war. Lady Rosemine, is that apparel not a tad aggressive for one answering the summons of a goddess? Ortwin asked, as if speaking for all of those present. Far from it, she said on face. This is not nearly enough. The goddess had nothing to contribute. Could dressing in that manner have been the correct response? Cantrip inhaled sharply. Rosamund had received no more news about the gods at time's intentions than anyone else. For her to have prepared as she had, retrieving the Guttershite from the gods must have been a perilous, life-threatening endeavor. Rosamund, Wilf recalled, rushing to meet her. Hanneleore's in trouble because of you. Go save her. Because of me? Rosamund asked with a grimace. The gods are to blame, not I. And need you tell me to take action? That I mean to rescue her goes without saying. She turned to Cantrip, her usual elegant smile lost beneath the intense stare of someone ready to do battle. I have instructed one of my attendants to advise you on what to do with Lady Hannelore when the goddess leaves her body. Speak to her when you can. You have my utmost gratitude, Cantrip replied. Despite his outward composure, he was stunned that Rosamund had the wherewithal to consider and to make arrangements to ensure Hannelore's safety on top of everything else. It was a great comfort to know someone would guide him through what could not have been a more unexpected turn of events. I doubt it will be easy. There is already a clamor over the rise of a second divine avatar, but please cooperate with Ob Dunkelfugger to protect Lady Hannelore. Rosamund insisted, then continued past everyone to kneel before the gazebo. I am sorry to have kept you, O goddess of time. I am Rosamund, the Archduchess of Alex. Time is short, the goddess interjected. Then she held out her hand and said, let us hurry. Rosamund stood without question, speaking to her experience with goddesses. Then she entered the gazebo with ease, despite Cantrip's and the others having been blown away by the sheer force of the exuded divinity. I shall ask that you elaborate immediately upon our arrival, she said. I mean to release Lady Hannelore at the earliest opportunity. Indeed, for as long as her body and mind are apart, the former shall remain in a state of near death. All the more reason for us to depart. The light swelled and consumed Rosamund, who seemed to melt into thin air. Lady Hannelore! Cantrip rushed into the gazebo before its candor could even begin to fade, fearing the harm that might come to Hannelore if she collapsed. He managed to grab her before she could crumble back under her seat or the cold stone underfoot. The light dimmed, and the weight returned to Hannelore's body. Cantrip was glad to have a sign that the goddess had departed, and the pressure squeezing his chest relaxed, but the girl in his arms remained perfectly still. She wasn't even breathing. He had not been able to fetch her any warm clothes despite the lowering temperature, so her skin was cold to the touch. Let us take her from here, one of the Hannelore's apprentice knights said. It's better that we carry her. Cantrip nodded and acquiesced. Even as her suitor, it would be scandalous to embrace her much longer. She will remain on the brink of death until she regains consciousness, he cautioned. So said the goddess of time. What? Be calm. Lady Rosamund swore to return her safely. In the goddess's absence, they could rely only on the facts as they understood them. Cantrip gave Hannelore to her guard knights, then called off to stop a rather pale Cordula who had turned to depart with them. One moment, Lady Cordula. Lady Rosamund has instructed one of her attendants to advise us on treating Lady Hannelore. Yes, that would be me, came a young woman's voice. I am Laisletta, Lady Rosamund's head attendant. It had taken Laisletta a moment to make her presence known. Her smaller mana capacity had meant she could only move so close to the gazebo. She was young enough that one would never have thought her the head attendant of an Ob, but she had seen to Rosamund's well-being both before and after the latter's possession by a goddess. Cordula seemed to recognize her, and the color quickly returned to her face. Your wisdom is greatly appreciated. Before we speak, may I send the others ahead to our dormitory? Of course, Laisletta answered with a smile. Then she held out a veil and continued, Please use this to cover Lady Hannelore's face. If you do not mind the fact that my lady has worn it many times before, it was a means to prevent one's unconscious charge from becoming a spectacle, and the revelation that Rosamund carried it at all times said a lot about her health. I would be glad to accept it, Cordula said. I am more grateful than I could put into words. She used the veil to cover Hannelore's face and watched as the other retainers rushed their lady back to the dormitory. If she does not regain consciousness quickly now that the goddess has taken her leave, soak her body in a jarif so her mana does not harden, Laisletta insisted, launching straight into her advice. If she has not prepared one, then a jarif belonging to her brother or mother will survive. Students learned to brew jarifs during their 5th year at the Royal Academy. Hannelore had yet to make her own. Cordula formed an ordinance before uttering even a word in response. Hold on. Forgive my rudeness, she said at last. I can waste no time in passing under guidance, lest our teleportation circle be closed for the night. On that note, Cordula sent a message to the knight stationed by Dunkelfegger's teleportation hall, asking whether Lestalot still had the jarif he made before his marriage, or if Segode simply had one to spare. If there is still divine power within her when she wakes, then others will struggle even to touch her, which will cause all manner of problems in her day-to-day life. Laisletta explained. You will need to contact the Zent, her voice lowered to a whisper, for you will need to borrow silver cloth. Her caution was fully warranted. Only a select few knew of the silver cloth, even among the duchies that had participated in the war against Lanzanov. Lisleta's advice largely related to Hannelore's attendance. Cantrips could not help but feel out of place when the conversation turned to bathing Hannelore with silver cloth. Unable to hide his discomfort, he stepped away to look around. The sun had long since set, but the commotion outside the scholar building and the curious professors attempting to enter the gazebo meant things were far from quiet. I see that Lords Wolfrid and Ortwin have yet to leave. They shouldn't have had any further business at the gazebo, but they were deep in conversation. Cantrip strained his ears to listen to them. Wilfrid, it's no small miracle to have won the affection of a divine avatar. Why not propose to her back? I stand by what I said. The daughter of a greater duchy's first wife was already too much for Ehrenfest. A divine avatar is completely out of the question, I'm sorry. It seemed that not even the descent of a goddess had changed how Wilfrid felt. Cantrip was relieved, to say the least. I never once thought I would be able to support Rosamund, so I can't be so arrogant as to think I could support Lady Hannelore, Wilfrid continued with sincere concern in his voice. Instead, I pray she finds a man who can ease her heavy burden as Uncle does for Rosamund. Cantrip recalled that many times Hannelore had praised Wilfrid as kind. He had assumed she was blissfully unaware of the truth, given how stubbornly she defended the man who had betrayed his promise to her and burdened her with such great hardships, but evidently not. She had seen a side of him that Cantrip and the others hadn't known existed. So you won't mind if I propose then, Ortwin asked. Cantrip was taken entirely by surprise. Hannelore had refused Ortwin's proposal outright from what Cordula had told him, and the day's events made her true feelings abundantly clear. To pursue her nonetheless would be to scorn not only her and her suitors, but also Ob Dunkelfeger himself. This is no joke. Ortwin was an Archduke candidate of Jawanko, which made him far more troublesome to deal with than Ehrenfest. At a time when Dunkelfeger already had its guard up against Karinstam, a formal proposal from a greater duchy would make things all the more unpleasant. And are other duchies not likely to approach us seeking to marry Lady Hannelore? Only then did it dawn on Cantrip what Rosamund had meant when she asked that he protect Hannelore in the midst of all the chaos to come, and yet, I could trust you to care for her, Ortwin, Wilfrid said. You have my approval. Don't just concede to him! So Wilfrid really does not like Hannelore in that way. Or at least not enough to go against everything and try and win her over. Jawanko might have appeared to be a powerful greater duchy from the perspective of a middle duchy like Ehrenfest, but it's still placed below Dunkelfelder in the rankings. Well, of course, Dunkelfelder is the first dang in number 1, so of course it's going to be lower. It was on awful terms with Karinstam due to Adolphian's divorce, and its ties to the new Zent were practically non-existent. Hannelore would be far safer at home than anywhere else. A union based on love might have been acceptable, but Ob Dunkelfelder had already expressed an interest in making Ortwin the second husband of either Ob Alexandria or Zet Eglantine. Oh boy, that would be awkward. Very awkward. Oh dear. I don't think Rosamund would be interested, and yeah, Ortwin would not stand a chance against Ferdinand. Oh god. Combined with the fact that Hannelore still clearly wished to be with Wilfrid, a marriage to Ortwin would have no personal basis, only a political one. Jawanko would use her status as a second divine avatar to better trade blows with Karinstam and the Zent. No matter how Cantrip thought about it, Jawanko was far from the ideal environment for Hannelore, the former Lady Crybaby. She had a tendency to overthink things and stubbornly kept her opinions close to the vest. Though such behavior was overlooked in Dunkelfelder, owing to the duchy's focus on warfare, Jawanko specialized in knowledge. Its archducal family would almost certainly not approve. Wait a moment. Do not get ahead of yourselves, Cantrip said, moving to intervene. Rosenturk and I are Lady Hannelore's chosen suitors. Perhaps, but is either one of you truly capable of protecting her? Wilfrid asked. Archnobles do not have the status to marry a divine avatar, be they from the top-ranked duchy or not. If you cannot plan countless steps ahead and eliminate her enemies, as Uncle does for Rosamund, Lady Hannelore will be stolen before you can even get a handle on your allies. That is not true. Cantrip wished to protest, but said nothing. Given their respective statuses, any future disagreements could escalate into an interduchy incident. Protect her well, Wilfrid said. Otherwise, the treasure of your duchy shall naturally be drawn to where she belongs. Perhaps Jawanko, for instance. To be completely fair, if marrying her out of the duchy is an option, Jawanko is probably the safest place for her. Cantrip had been irritated by Wilfrid's warning, but now he was faced with countless calls for bride-stealing dinner. To make matters worse, the Dunkelfelder dormitory was being split into opposing factions led by Rosentark and Rothrig. For as long as Hannelore remained unconscious, Rothrig held the highest status in the dormitory. He was an archduke candidate, which meant archnobles such as Kentrips and Rosentark could not keep him fully under control. Even as Hannelore's former suitors, they could not risk being too defiant without her or their lord around to support them. It was hard to imagine Dunkelfelder losing a game of bride-stealing dinner to another duchy, but the fracturing of their forces was anything but ideal. More than 10 days had passed since Dragoner's descent. What was happening to Hannelore? When would she finally wake up? Had the goddess's power caused tremendous damage to her body? Lady Rosamund's head attendant had explained only how to attend to one suffused with divine power, not the consequences or nuances of a mind returning to a body once possessed. So many questions remained unanswered that Kentrips could not help but worry. Still, I must do what I can while time remains. Kentrips, where are you going? Rosentark asked, following him out of the meeting room. To my room. I wish to develop new tools for this dinner match. Make something so fearsome that even Ditter's Lord of Evil would tremble. Good luck on that one. I'd say make something that he would be proud of. That's what you need to do. Make something that he would be proud to wield. That would get your approval. I'll be at the training grounds. Kentrips nodded at Rosentark, who was clearly in high spirits, and continued on his way to his room. It was only when he approached the stairs that he heard a quiet whisper speak his name. He looked around cautiously, then noticed Cordula waiting in the shadows. She wasn't hidden, merely out of the way, somewhere where she would not be seen unless someone looked carefully. Kentrips approached as subtly as he could. Lady Cordula, could it be that Lady Hannelore has... Yes, not long ago. Do you have a moment? She wishes to know the details of what happened at the gazebo. For those few words, Kentrips understood the situation. They wished to better grasp the events of that fateful day without announcing that Hannelore was awake. He nodded his assent. Follow me then, Cordula said. Kentrips expected to be taken to a meeting room. Instead, the head attendant led him to a hallway for servants. It seemed they would be going to Hannelore's room, which he opposed, even in the current circumstances. Boys were forbidden from going to girls' rooms at the Royal Academy. But this would... Cordula shook her head. If we took her to a meeting room, then we might as well inform the entire dormitory that she's awake. Now, do not misuse this hallway. I would never, Kentrips insisted on instinct. Cordula chuckled and said she was well aware. Kentrips could not claim to appreciate being teased, but it brought him joy to see her more at ease, especially with all they had to endure over the past 10 days or so. Thank goodness Lady Hannelore is awake. Kentrips followed Cordula down complex, narrow hallways and up creaky stairs, though he could barely hear them over the pounding of his heart. Oh, we get run from Rosamund's point of view. Oh, come on! Regular reports for the Ob. It is 7th bell, Lady Rosamund. I was resting on a sofa in my room in the Alexandria dormitory. Dynon, a large magic tool in the shape of an aqua blue shoe meal, sat facing me on my lap. 7th bell meant it was time to give my report. It was my first year back at the Royal Academy since leaving Ehrenfest and becoming an Ob. Based on prior experience, we knew that anything I said or did ran the risk of snowballing into a major incident, which was why Ferdinand had advised me to provide regular spoken updates on my situation. I wish I could just write them. It would spare me a lecture. Though, to be fair, your track record when it came to writing reports and not giving enough information caused quite a lot of stuff to happen, so I think the spoken stuff is probably best. Frustratingly enough, Ferdinand refused to trust my written reports. He insisted that no one who saw how drastically my old ones differed from those submitted by Wilfried would ever be convinced to accept them. My intention had been to keep them short and simple, but Ferdinand mistook my brevity for deception. Thus we had switched to spoken reports. It was a superior approach, Ferdinand assured me. It was easier to ask for details, there was no delay in my responses, and my tone of voice, among other things, revealed whenever I was trying to hide something. If only they didn't always turn into tongue lashings. Rosamund, I expected to be told that you received the hairpin incident during class. Ferdinand said, speaking through Dynon. What is this about an urgent tea party with Dunkelfelder? How are you doing that? So Dynon is supposed to be like a phone where you could talk to Ferdinand through it? Wow, cool. I didn't think a freaking magic tool like that existed. To my vexation, my adorable toy had been transformed into a not-so-adorable lecture machine. It amazed me just how much of a change a voice could make. Thinking about it, could this be some kind of whimsical fantasy telephone? No, not quite. Dynan was simply too restricted to warrant the comparison. He could only relay messages when I was touching his face stone, and as it stood, only one person could speak at a time. In the midst of our preparation for this academic year, Ferdinand had seemed so terribly concerned about the fresh problems I might cause him. In an attempt to put his mind at ease, I said that I would simply ask the Zent to lend me one of those water mirrors if ever something was amiss. Days later, he had informed me that he had equipped one of the tools he was making for my return to the Royal Academy with its very own communication function. It was so strange. He's insanely busy transforming old Arensbach into Alexandria. What drove him to go to all that unnecessary trouble? To make sure that you get all the information to him that he needs in case something happens? And why did you accept such an abrupt invitation from Dunkelfelder at this difficult time? You should not have permitted their self-serving requests, Ferdinand continued. Mine. Ferdinand wasn't using my old name for the fun of it. Mine was an incantation of sorts that served an important purpose when making use of Dynan's communication feature. He used it to activate the tool and to end each message, which let me know when I was expected to respond. My version was Dino, which didn't resemble his name quite as much. Well, duh, his name was Quinta, but still. I mean, Lady Hannelore said it was urgent, I replied, and of course I mean to assist my friends whenever I can. Dino. Hannelore had agreed to help with and played a crucial role in my operation to rescue Ferdinand. If she was in trouble, then I owed it to her to return the favor. Not that I could ever ignore a dear friend in need. If she seeks your aid, then her problem must be too great for Dunkelfelder to manage alone. Getting involved could easily spiral into another troublesome interduchy conflict, mine. But I can't ignore a friend, I declared, the blood rushing to my head. Troublesome or not, I want to do as much as I can for Lady Hannelore's sake. Dino. Ferdinand made a point of sighing loud enough for me and everyone around me to hear. You must understand that now, as much as you can do goes beyond your personal capacity to include all that you can do as Ob Alexandria. It would be extremely problematic if you involved yourself in matters that would further trouble our duchy in its current state. You might wish to help her for personal reasons, but there's no guarantee that others will see it that way. The duchies belonging to those who were formerly royalty will insist that they too exceed Alexandria in rank and attempt to force their own frustrating concerns on us. Please learn to appreciate that your actions will impact everyone here in the duchy. Mine. I pursed my lips and squeezed the aqua blue shoe mill. Ferdinand made so much sense that I could not hope to argue with him. Yes, I actually agree with his point. It wasn't good to casually assist Hannelore now that I was an Ob, but I still couldn't accept being told not to help a friend in need. I know all that, but I still want to help Lady Hannelore, even if doing so might cause problems between duchies. Despite the strength of my resolve, my voice grew quieter with each word. I understood that I was being selfish, and that an extensive lecture awaited me. Accepting my fate, I made one last declaration. I will not give up on her. I shall assist her without our duchies being drawn into the mix. Dino. Who do you think will bear the brunt of the consequences if your actions cause trouble at the Royal Academy? Ferdinand asked. His voice as cold, irritated, and exasperated as one would expect. Mine. You, I said at length. Dino. I held my breath, bracing for his scathing rebuke, but it never came. Who told me to prioritize my health above all else? Mine. I did. Dino. Then what should you be prioritizing? Mine. You, I guess. I answered with a quizzical tilt in my head, saying what I assumed he wanted to hear without knowing why he wanted to hear it. Dino. Good, as long as you understand. Good? I don't understand at all. But it can't be good if he's permitting me to help Lady Hannelore. As if able to hear my thoughts, Ferdinand let out another long sigh. In any case, give only ambiguous responses to any calls for aid, and maintain that you will come to a decision only after you have returned. Ask Lazletta and Gracia to assist you, and keep Dinan's recording function on from the start of the tea party till its conclusion. If these conditions are met, and I determine that it will not negatively impact Alexandria, I will provide what assistance I can. Mine. You don't mind, then? I thank you ever so much. Dino. I squeezed the shoe mill to my chest and gazed up at my head attendant, a broad grin on my face. Lazletta, Ferdinand gave me his permission. It never once crossed my mind that he might relent, and without lecturing me no less. He wanted me to record my entire tea party with Hannelore, but I could tolerate that. It was far better than being refused outright. Oh, now I get how he knew. Now I get how he knew. Lazletta regarded me with a kind smile and giggled. He knows you will never give up on those precious to you, no matter who tries to stand in your way. I mean, he knows that from experience. No doubt he would rather know what you are doing as it happens than find out abruptly afterward. Ferdinand clicked his tongue. It is much easier to clean up the messes you make when I am aware of what you are doing. Mine. Seriously, they're in total agreement. Not even my daily reports had earned me their trust, it seemed. I pouted and glared at Dynan, who stared back at me without a word, his golden eyes beady and vacant. He had already entered transmission mode. To be clear, I said, I shan't make a mess in the first place. Dino. How I wish that were true. Ferdinand sounded so certain that I would cause trouble that I started to worry as well. However, I had no intention of making his life any busier. I needed to prove to him that he had nothing to fear. As I clenched my fist, Ferdinand spoke once more. It is late. You should rest for tonight. May you sleep well with Schlaftrum's blessing, mine. His tone was surprisingly kind, and although he knew he was merely speaking the incantation, it felt as though he really was using my old name. The same kind of comfortable ease I got from my lower city family washed over me, along with a sudden wave of embarrassment. You should go to bed too, Ferdinand. May you sleep well with Schlaftrum's blessing, I said, until we speak again at 7th bell tomorrow. Dinah. I considered addressing Ferdinand as Dino the next time we snuck into the lower city together. Maybe then he would understand the blush that had risen to my cheeks. It was with that scheme in mind that I concluded the day's report. Oh, God. How much more do I got left? Break time breakdown. Even on Earth days, Dunkelfelger's Archducal retainers were expected to train. That held true not only for knights, but for attendants and scholars as well, whether they were of the sword or not. Those serving Lord Lestalot, Lady Einlieb, Lady Hannelore, Lord Rothric, and Lady Lungtays were required to attend. But a sudden scheduled tea party with Alexandria meant that all of Lady Hannelore's retainers were absent. Lady Lungtay's retainers, conclude your rest and start coordination training with Lord Rothric's retainers. Lord Lestalot's retainers, rest in their place. I sat at the edge of the grounds waiting to be analyzed. We always began our rest periods with a review of our performance. In this case, we apprentice knights were taking the lead and serving as attackers for the apprentice scholars and attendants to defend against. Our aim was to teach them what to focus on when they had to defend their lord or lady. Put more thought into your attacks, Rosentark. This might only be training, but your moves are far too predictable. As the oldest of the knights still enrolled at the academy, Vestart was the highest authority. He specialized in thinking of all sorts of surprise attacks, and this was far from the first time he had put me through the ringer. My mana capacity was greater than his, yet he almost always claimed victory in our duels. So is this Rosentark's point of view? I guess we'll find out in a bit. Code Nest. Learn to counterattack more, he continued. It's one thing to be cautious, but you were practically standing still. Codeness was a second-year apprentice attendant and not one of the sword. He was the son of one of Ob Dunkelfelger's brothers, which made him Lord Lestalot's cousin in the same fashion as kinships and me. So it is Rosentark? I don't know. I'll find out. To my knowledge, he had not become a retainer by choice. Although he took no issue with attendant work, he made it clear that he hated combat training. He had a wealth of mana, as expected from someone from a branch family, but used it for his own defense more than anyone else's. As long as Codeness helped us keep our lord safe, I didn't much care about his shortcomings, but Vestart was not satisfied. I had once heard him grumble about how much he envied Codeness' mana, insisting that he could put it to better use. I see Lady Hannelore's retainers are all absent, said Gulaheld, a fifth-year apprentice attendant. He turned his gaze to the ground's entrance. What drove her to schedule a tea party on one of our training days? I cannot help but wonder what she is discussing with Lady Rosebind. Gulaheld had ample reason to be concerned. Lady Hannelore would never usually organize a tea party when she knew her retainers had training. It was arranged rather suddenly, was it not? Lady Hannelore gave the invitation, so I doubt Alexandria means to request anything of us. The balance of power in Jurgenschmidt had shifted. 3 new duchies had arisen, and Dunkelfelger, now first in the rankings, would receive more favor from the Zent than even her home duchy of Klassenberg. It was no wonder, then, that far more students were clamoring at Dunkelfelger's heels than usual. Those from duchies desperate for connections to the top ranks, who wanted as much intelligence as they could get, and who sought to have their requests heard by the Zent. Even during the Archduke Conference, Lady Magdalena had petitioned Dunkelfelger to support Blumenfield, and Lord Lestalot had warned that Karinsdam was after Lady Hannelore. It would not have been strange if Lady Rosebind wished to make a request of Dunkelfelger through Lady Hannelore. In fact, many nobles anticipated it. She was an underage Ob whose archducal family had only one adult in Lord Ferdinand. Her blood relatives lacked the status to adequately support her, and one would expect she would face hardships in ruling a greater duchy. The worst part is that none of us were allowed to attend, Gulaheld said with a heavy sigh. Something unexpected was bound to happen whenever Lady Rosamund and Lady Hannelore came together. In an effort to prepare ourselves, we had requested that one of Lord Lestalot's or Lady Ainleaf's retainers be allowed to attend, only for Cordelia to refuse. She will report on the events of the tea party as the Ob had instructed her to observe Alexandria and Ehrenfest, but she had no intention of allowing anyone else's retainers to join them. She said it would prevent Lady Hannelore from relaxing. How could we argue with that? Kentrips asked, doing his best to console Gulahed. After the bride-stealing dinner match held during my 3rd year, a chasm had opened up between Lady Hannelore and those of us who served Lord Lestalot. Yeah, I think this is Rosentark. Things had improved thanks to her participation in True Dinner and Lord Lestalot inheriting the Foundation magic, securing his place as the next Ob, but some wounds had yet to heal. You're her suitor, Kentrips. You really should do more to act the part, Vestart said, slapping him on the back. It's up to you whether we can learn anything from her at all. I raised my eyebrows. Kentrips wasn't her only suitor, so why was he only one getting words of support? Give me some encouragement too, Vestart, I cried. To what end? You have no hope of gathering any meaningful intelligence. Yeah, you're the knight. He's the scholar. Of course he's going to be tasked to get any kind of information he can. As an apprentice scholar, Kentrips had me beat in that regard, but it still frustrated me to be treated as the inferior suitor. Why does nobody support me? I cried. I clearly love Lady Hannelore far more than Kentrips does. Calm down, Gulaheld said. No need to have a jealous fit. At this rate, she'll end up with you no matter what. What does he mean? Kentrips and everyone else seemed to understand, but how when I was completely in the dark? Gulaheld, I said, explain. As it stands, Lady Hannelore will fail to convey her feelings to Ehrenfest. Not only has she experienced the damage that acting on her emotions can do to her duchy and reputation, but she also knows that the other party does not seek her hand in marriage. Even so, why would she end up engaged to me instead of Kentrips? I scanned the others' faces, my nerves all the more intense, but they merely shook their heads at me. If you think about Lady Hannelore's character and the way she acts, it should be obvious, Vestart said, clapping me on the shoulder. Then, with a wry smile similar to meant to end the conversation. Even if you don't get it, that's no problem, you just need to wait. I don't want to wait. I'm going to court Lady Hannelore and win her over properly. Try all you like, but you're so bad at courting that she didn't even know how you felt until something completely unrelated brought it up. I'll advise you to use your head outside of practice, too. It was far from the first time he told me to think more, but this attack cut me especially deep. Prior to the hairpin incident, I didn't even consider that Lady Hannelore didn't know how I felt. Rather, I thought it was precisely because she understood that she was trying to keep her distance from me. You fell in love at first sight, didn't you, Rosentark? Vestart said. Focus on that. Thanks for the warning, but you're a little confused, I said with a slight smile and a dismissive wave of my hand. It was Kentrips who fell for her that quickly, not I. Huh? As in, our Kentrips? Rosentark, the man in question exclaimed, overwrought. I think you hit the nail on the head on that one. Everyone exchanged glances. That's a surprise, Vestart continued. Always going on about her, Rosentark. Kentrips, on the other hand, never says more than is absolutely necessary. Because he knows to keep that sort of information to himself. Because you're supposed to keep your emotions and everything hidden as a noble, so that doesn't get seen as weakness. He's good at that. He didn't seem all that pleased to be chosen as her suitor, Gulaheld agreed. Well, he tries to keep it hidden, I said. At home, however. That's enough, Rosentark, Kentrips shouted. Hold your tongue. Uh-oh. You about to reveal something embarrassing? Angering him further would only make him a pain in my neck, so I relented. Still, our fellow retainers couldn't keep the grins from their faces and promptly set about barraging him with questions. When did you first meet Lady Hannelore, Kentrips? Vestart asked. Was it during her baptism? Or was it perhaps when you became Lord Lestalot's retainer, Gulaheld? If so, that must have been right after you were baptized, right? As a blood-related retainer, you would have been permitted to accompany Lord Lestalot into the Archducal living area from the start. The pair got straight to work, theorizing. Noble children were raised exclusively among their relatives and tended not to leave their estates until they were baptized. It was only natural to place so much importance on their baptisms, as only then were they allowed to access the castle. Unfortunately, as blood relatives of the Ob, we first met her even earlier. I swallowed my response, not wanting another lambast from Kentrips. Kentrips and Rosentark started going to the castle before their baptisms, didn't they? Codenest asked, his head cocked to one side. I remember seeing them at our family meetings. As the son of the current Ob's younger brother, Codenest had also entered the castle before his baptism. He, Kentrips, and I shared the Ob as an uncle, though his father was the Ob's younger brother and ours the elder. Our mothers were from other duchies, so the only relatives we met before our baptisms were members of the Dunkelfelger Archducal family. Naturally, we had attended gatherings from all the blood-related children. I've heard of your family meetings, but I can't pretend to know much about them, Vestart said. We are summoned so that the Ops children who cannot leave the castle can experience socializing with those of their generation. That was how we met Lord Rothrig and Lady Lungtaste before their baptisms, Codenz explained, searching through his memories as he spoke. As I recall, my first conversation with Lady Hannelore was right before her baptism. On the days of such meetings, all retainers outside the Archducal family were allowed to rest. I remembered enjoying our old gatherings as we simply spent the time playing together. But now they always seem to end in someone getting chastised. Some degree of rudeness from one's relatives can surely be overlooked, but is it truly wise to send pre-baptismal children to the castle? Gulaheld asked. There are some who don't behave even when old enough to attend the Royal Academy. The former eldest apprentice attendant had graduated alongside Lord Lestalot, meaning the task of guiding the new students had fallen to Gulaheld. He found that stressful enough, so the thought of a bunch of young children gathering before the Archducal family must have seemed a veritable nightmare. Well, they can't attend until they have their parents' permission and can give a proper greeting, I said. That's why, although everyone got baptized at 7 years old, the age at which a child starts socializing can vary, usually between 3 and 5, I think. I remember attending my first meeting at 4 years old. Kentrips had gone to his a tad sooner, just as he was leaving 3. Between 3 and 5? Gulaheld echoed, looking more anxious than anything else. Kentrips, were you really that young when you fell in love? It was not actually love at first sight, Kentrips shot back, his face twisting in the start of a grimace. I scoffed, and yet you wouldn't shut up about how cute she was. I really doubt that happened, Kentrips retorted, but his protest was in vain. I remembered clear as day the look he had given me upon returning from his first gathering. A kinder smile than he had ever worn before, and the very declaration he had made to me. She's the cutest Lady Crybaby the world will ever see. Such as was my oldest memory related to Lady Hannelore. I had been too young and inexperienced to leave my father's estate at the time, and Kentrips had been the only friend with whom I could socialize. Hearing him rave about her had wounded me as though someone had stolen my closest companion. It had also made me envy Kentrips for being able to leave the estate he had gone and made a new friend without me. Not a single pleasant emotion had come from that day. No wonder I remembered it so clearly. Even just thinking about it caused the same intensity that had coursed through me then to threaten to resurface. I cannot talk! As that storm of outrage had eventually subsided, a new idea had taken root. To put my envy to rest, I needed to start visiting the castle as well. So I wasted no time in pleading with my father to let me go, to the point of sobbing on my knees. In hindsight, it was the worst move I could possibly have made. He had watched me weep with cold eyes and waved me away as if my request wasn't even worth considering. Kind of shows you're not very mature. But you're a child, so... The castle is a place of elegance, he had said. If you wish to go there, then you must learn to behave properly. I cannot bring a child who can neither control his emotions nor give a proper greeting. From that day forth, my education had grown so much more intense. Mother had even started taunting me, informing that Kentrips had been invited back to a second gathering, and that she might even join him. Only when I was 4 years old was I deemed capable enough to attend as well. You two, quit glaring at each other, Gulaheld said, slotting himself between us. It's been so long that I doubt either one of you remembers exactly what happened. Let us not forget the timeless battle between facts and feelings. Vestart nodded along. Even if it wasn't love at first sight, Kentrips was surely charmed by her adorableness. I assume Rosenchuk felt the same when he first saw her. Not at all, I retorted, shaking my head. I just thought, she's as normal as they come. What? Kentrips exclaimed. That's a bald-faced lie. It's not. I didn't find her especially cute. Kentrips had spoken about Lady Hannelore with such a goofy ear-to-ear grin that I had assumed she was someone truly special. Upon actually meeting her, however, I had found that she was just a regular girl. In retrospect, my reaction had probably stemmed from feeling that I was in competition with Lady Hannelore, fighting for Kentrips' attention, but she hadn't seemed at all cute to me. Nothing about her had explained why my friend adored her so much. Whenever we played together in the Northern Building's garden, Lord Lestalot would inevitably end up leaving Lady Hannelore behind. She would start to sob, and Kentrips would console her as though it were a matter of course. I remember wishing he would ignore her and play with us as he'd always used to. In the end, I would give them no more than a glance before chasing Lord Lestalot as best I could. I never stood a chance of catching up to him. The 3 years that separated us gave him too great an advantage, especially at that age, but I enjoyed it nonetheless. It was my first time playing with a boy other than Kentrips. I came to appreciate Lord Lestalot for playing with me long before I developed any feelings for Lady Hannelore, who seemed to cry at every chance she got, I said. I remember thinking she'd have a hard time getting anything done with those frilly clothes she used to wear. Upon hearing my response, which was my honest opinion, might I add, everyone around me burst into laughter. Classic Rosentark, said. I was tempted to ask them what they meant by that. When did you start fancying her, Rosentark? It was before my baptism, but not by much. Maybe just before I turned 6? So it was before you were baptized, Vestart said, looking eager. Do you remember what started it? I thought back. As well as being a chance to socialize, our family meetings had served as an excellent opportunity to see who would make a good retainer for Lord Lestalot. Our parents and the archducal couple had watched us to see how well we meshed together, then debated who was best suited to be a knight, an attendant, or a scholar. In the lead-up to our baptisms, when we had decided to put on our courses, we participated in Archduke candidate training ourselves. I had been working hard to pass the knight selection, so I couldn't wait. Of course, the training had extended to all Archduke candidates, meaning Lady Hannelore had taken part as well. She had seemed so small that I found it hard to believe we were the same age, and true to her nature, she had broken down in tears whenever she and her brother were apart. I doubted she would make it through the training. Lady Hannelore, would you like to stop for the day? Yeah, I remember. I saw her crying on the ground and assumed that was it, but then surpassing my expectations, Lady Hannelore wiped away her tears and stood. No, she had said, I need to press on. Despite her sobs, Lady Hannelore refused to give up. She repeated the technique over and over again, determined to do it as instructed. This will be your last attempt. I understood. Lady Hannelore corrected her posture and slowly lowered her hips. She spun the stick in her hand, stopped, and then brought her back foot forward as she stepped into a powerful thrust. Her hips then dropped again as she drew her foot back and swung the stick in a downward slam. She had successfully executed the technique. Excellent work. A few words of praise later, the instructor had announced the end of training. Lady Hannelore had met the compliment with a proud, beaming smile, and at that moment... she's beautiful. Lady Crybaby had vanished, replaced with someone I almost didn't recognize. Her talent with weaponry far exceeded my own, while my technique depended on brute force. Hers was so elegant that it burned into my mind the moment I saw it. She had developed a fighting style meant to compensate for her small stature, and she kept her head high as if determined to keep her enemy in sight. So stunning was the figure she cut that I still remembered my instructor scolding me for not paying attention. Not that I would tell the others. I refused to answer, I said. My words are for her ears only. I'd rather she hear the unadulterated version from me than the butchered mess any of you would pass along. Vestart raised an eyebrow and chuckled. If that's so, well, good luck with that. I was unsure what he meant, at least until Gulaheld clapped him on the back. So you're going to confess with her retainers while watching, he said. Or he asked. Yeah, good luck. I could already imagine it. Cordial and Lady Hannelore's other retainers glaring at me with their guards up. No matter what sweet words I whispered, I would never be able to create a romantic atmosphere in their presence. I want to speak with Lady Hannelore alone, I cried. How can her retainers be so defensive when the Ob chose me as her suitor? They're actively interfering. If you want to get close to an Archduke candidate, then her retainers' help is indispensable, Vestart said. That you have no skills among them, or allies among them, speaks purely to your own incompetence. I ground my teeth, unable to argue. Perhaps not Codeness interjected, attempting to mediate. Lady Hannelore's retainers are especially uncooperative owing to that whole mess with our bride-stealing dinner match. I understand that much, I said. Lady Hannelore's guard knights are defensive because they are loyal to her and committed to their duties. Still, as a suitor who can't even meet with his potential partner, I've got every right to be annoyed. Don't I, Kentrips? I turned to him, counting on his support, only to receive a non-committal smile. To resolve the current situation, I believe, Lady Hannelore must first come to terms with her emotions, he said, speaking as though he knew exactly how she felt. Her retainers are only so cautious because she is protecting her thoughts and keeping us at arm's length. And you're just going to let that continue, I asked, my frustration bubbling to the surface. Letting her come to terms with her emotions means letting her meet with that craven Lord Wilfrey. What will you do if she turns the piece on his head and starts on another rampage to marry into Ehrenfest? I glared at Kentrips for being such a fool. It made far more sense for us to secure her retainer support in winning her over than let her explore some fruitless romance. If she's going to marry one of us and stay in Dunkelfelder, then it is imperative that she settles matters with Lord Wilfrey first, Kentrips assured me. Lady Hannelore is as stubborn as they come. When she comes to a decision, she holds it fast and refuses to let go. Unless she gives up on her romance by choice, there will be no knowing when she might betray us again. At that point, I would rather she wed into another duchy entirely. I stared at my fellow suitor in shock. There were more than a few people pushing for Lady Hannelore to become the next Ob, now that she had taken part in True Dinner and developed a strong bond with the Divine Avatar. Yes, she had sided with Lord Wilfrid during our dinner match, betraying both her duchy and Lord Lestalot in the process. And yes, she probably still harbored feelings for him, but with everything that had happened, there was no way she would turn her back on us again. You should know that, Cantrips. As an Archduke candidate, Lady Hannelore must obey the Archduke's will, I said. She might be stubborn, but she would never forget her place. Instead, she would suppress her unhappiness, allowing it to fester for years on end. Dare we let that happen? Not knowing when she might eventually explode. She would need to give up on her romance for the sake of duty and her position. Would you be able to do that, Rosendark? As much as it pained me, he was right. The last thing we wanted was to deal with such uncertainty, and yet I still couldn't agree with him. How could someone so smart say such stupid things, I exclaimed. You're a moron, Cantrips. That means painfully little from someone too obtuse to come up with a more creative insult, he shot back. I racked my brain for another main word to use, only to realize he had a point. Shut up. That's not what I meant. I'm saying we don't need to manipulate Lady Hannelore in this weird roundabout way. We should face her directly. Manipulate her? I mean only to cherish her emotions. She should see them through, not feel compelled to hide or obscure them. Huh? Do you want Lady Hannelore to leave us for Ehrenfest? Think before you speak, idiot. How can you expect her to face her emotions when you won't even admit your own? If we let Lady Hannelore put her heart above her suitors her father had chosen for her, she would be betraying the nobles of her duchy for the second time. More than that, though, it was hard to imagine her finding true happiness at Ehrenfest when they had already cast her aside once. How can you risk Lady Hannelore getting sent to another duchy? You love her just as much as I do, I shouted. Instead of resorting to all this nonsense, why don't you just confess to her and do what you can to make her feel the same way? It's because she means so much to me that I resolved to protect her. Lord Wilfrid had shamelessly demanded to take Lady Hannelore as his second wife, despite never having intended to marry her in the first place. I would treat her so much better than such a deceptive wretch ever could. I envy how straightforward you are, Cantrip said at length, lowering his eyes and letting out a hollow laugh. At once I recognized the resignation in his smile. A long time ago, Lady Crybaby had asked him to become a knight to protect her from Lord Lestalot. He had agreed, only for his parents to decide he should serve her brother instead. At least back then, Cantrip had actively sought to become a knight. He would surely have excelled no matter which path he took, but his father had ordered that he become a scholar, forcing him not to take the knight selection test. He had worn the same forsaken expression back then as well, and when he gave Lady Crybaby a magic tool to defend against Ehrenfest, only for her to concede to Lord Wilfrid without even using it. In short, Cantrips only wore his current expression when he was pushing down the frustration, sorrow, and other such negative emotions rising in his chest, not wanting to cause a fuss. What are you giving up on this time? The only thing that came to mind was his potential engagement to Lady Rosewine. In an instant, irritation more intense than I could describe surged through me. Stop running, Cantrips, I yelled. I couldn't stand the way he never acted on his emotions. Seeing him give up on his desires, as though it were the wise, correct thing to do, frustrated me to no end. I'm not running, I just can't protect her with my usual methods. He just had to confess his love to Lady Hannelore, win her over, and then never let her go. It really was that simple, so why wasn't he even trying to marry her? I could understand accepting defeat if you'd expanded all your options, but your refusal to even try makes my blood run hot. If you won't see sense, then I'll punch some into you. You two, if you're going to fight, do it on the grounds proper. Now I see why the duel happened. Now I see what happened with the duel. Okay, that makes sense. Because Rosendark is just getting pissed off that Cantrips isn't actually trying to even win Lady Hannelore over. Yes, Cantrip's point makes sense that they need to get Lady Hannelore to see that her feelings for Wilfrid are not going to happen, and then maybe she can try and focus on getting an actual suitor. I tried to leap at Cantrips, but Vestart had grabbed me first. I attempted to brute force my way free with no success. He seemed to know exactly how I would try to escape him. He used enhanced arms to throw me, then Cantrips to the very center of the grounds. I twisted in midair, locking on to Cantrip's position. He had traveled further than me, so I raced toward him as soon as my feet touched the ground. Cantrips landed as well, only to retreat at the very sight of me. He sprinted towards those training nearby, but they ran to the wall and took their high beasts up to the stand so as to not be involved. I used all my might to catch up to my target amidst the chaos. Quit running away, I roared. And do what exactly? You're a knight, remember? Don't get so serious about fighting a scholar. Shut up. Face me, I declared. It was time for him to challenge me head-on as his heart desired. Don't let others get to you. You can't protect Lady Hannelore by marrying her away. Listen to your heart. Don't run from what you're feeling. Where's Professor Roffin? Someone contact Lady Hannelore. Shouts rang out all around us, but I didn't have time to think about the lecture I'd receive. I needed to wake Cantrips up and get him to stop moping as though giving up were his only option. My fist clenched, I charged straight at him. Ugh, how much more? Hold on. Okay, this is the last one. In an office in Karinstam, Lord Sigiswell, it is about time for letters to arrive from the Royal Academy. I shall go acquire them. I was in a meeting with the Northern Gibbs, but a scholar murmured in my ear, then made for the teleportation hall. It was the perfect time to depart, I thought, so I took the hand of my wife, Nahalash, and turned to address the room. It would seem that the goddess of time is weaving her threads with exceptional smoothness today. Oh, is it that time already? One of the Gibbs asked. A scholar has requested our presence, so duty calls. Please continue your pleasantries for as long as you desire. Leaving behind an attendant and scholar each, Nahalash and I said our farewells, smiled all the while, and started toward the Archduke's office. We had concluded the important part of our meeting, so we were no longer needed as long as there was an attendant present to host our guests and a scholar to record their conversations. Having to find the proper time to leave had not changed since my days as a royalty. Lord Sigiswell, Lady Nahalash, please rest here until the letters from the Royal Academy arrive, said my head attendant who had moved to Karinstam from the Royal Palace. At last, Lady Nahalash and I could relax. We were in the presence of people we knew, able to enjoy tea brewed to our own preferences, rather than those of our guests. I sighed. This is even more tiring than I expected. First, there was much ado about sending students to the Royal Academy. Now I must hold regular events for winter socializing so that the nobles can gather intelligence. It was my first winter since the Archduke conference that had seen me made Ob Karinstam. It was with tremendous difficulty that I performed my archducal duties, which differed so greatly from my role as crown prince. Gathering the disparate Gibbs and listening to their grievances was one of the more important jobs of an archducal couple, it seemed. As a prince, I had received my fair share of petitions from nobles, so I thought I was a reasonably capable listener, but the constant stream of meetings and guests had grown a little tiresome. This is your first winter as an archduke, Lord Sigiswell. One can hardly blame you for being overwhelmed, Nahalash said. From the royal family, winters were mostly uneventful, aside from closing the royal palace and participating in the interduchy tournament and graduation ceremony. Mostly uneventful, were they? For 2 years, the sovereignty spent its winters navigating the absolute chaos that Rosamund caused. I chose to hold my tongue and nodded in agreement. It certainly is true that being an Ob is nothing like life in the royal palace. If not for your experience in Hawlich's archducal family, Nahalash, I do not know where I would be. Karinstam was a duchy made of deposed territories under the sovereignty's management. One could say it had more manor-rich land than old Workstock, which now fell under Father's rule. But there were other factors to balance the scale. Father had 3 wives, while Adolphine's forceful divorce left me with only Nahalash. My advice can only do so much, my wife said. Having an archducal family with only 2 adults is a death sentence for any duchy. If only Lady Adolphine had not been so quick to divorce you, or rather, if only Lady Eglantine and Andronko had not given her self-serving demand their permission, the burden on you now would not be so great. So, did she not have the baby yet? Well, then again, the baby isn't really going to do anything, so... In other words, to supply Karinstam with the mana it needs and establish relationships with other duchies, I will need to take 2 wives from the archducal families of top-ranking duchies I've used. Nahalash nodded, having a tired sigh. She regretted that her work as a first wife kept her from spending time with our young son, who was just as upset about the sudden changes to his life and environment. Being from Hawletts, I cannot hope to support you on my own, she continued. I can only bemoan how lacking I am. Adolphine was a member of our neighboring Greater Duchy's archducal family. Had we retained her support, all our burdens would have been considerably lessened. But before that, had Ferdinand not prattled on about the Newsnet giving their name to Rosamund, I would be in charge right now. In the first place, should Rosamund not have valued my opinion as the crown prince above Ferdinand's? Nope. She trusts his opinion way more than yours. And giving me the Grucheshite without question. The more I thought about the past, the more I realized that everyone had thought too little of my being the crown prince. It was unjust, though, through and through, but now that Eglantine had the Grucheshite, I could only embrace my future as Ob Karinstam. I married you with the intention of serving as your second wife, but that plan was thwarted when Adolphine took her leave, Nahalash said. The burden of being a first wife is too great for me to bear alone. By marrying the crown prince, me, Nahalash had secured Hawletts a higher place in the duchy rankings. Now that I was no longer part of the royal palace, I suspected its upward trajectory would reverse a tad, but that didn't change the expectations placed on Nahalash as my first wife. She would need to socialize with top-ranking duchies, which was by no means a strength of hers. Once again, Lady Hannelore of Dunkelfelder, now the country's top-ranked duchy, is your ideal first wife, Nahalat remarked. She's the daughter of an Ob's first wife, so even her mana alone would aid us greatly, and as she is a 5th year, it would not take too long for an engagement to bear fruit. In truth, I had intended to propose an engagement to Hannelore during the last Archduke conference. Jawanko had stopped me, though, insisting that it would be unsightly to plan another marriage so soon after an unexpected divorce. They had insisted that I wait a year, leaving me unable to pursue Hannelore or anyone else. I had indirectly expressed my intention to marry Hannelore to Dunkelfelder's first wife, only to receive no response. Perhaps her lack of comprehension was to blame? No, I think she was just ignoring you. It was none of my business, but I could not help but wonder if she truly was fit to serve as the first wife of the top-ranking duchy. No, she just doesn't like you, and decided not to tell them. As it stood, the students of Corinthstown were gathering information about Hannelore under my command. Their reports revealed she had 2 suitors, both Dunkelfelder archnobles, but would not be formally engaged until the Zent gave her approval at the Archduke Conference. I could thwart them both by negotiating with Ob Dunkelfelder during the Interduchy tournament. Surely a fellow Archduke would understand the positions we were in. Lady Hannelore aside, Lady Gentian of Klassenburg, or perhaps one of Lady Adolphine's half-sisters from Jawanko, could make a capable first wife, Nahalach said. Although we have much to gain from top-ranking duchies, Gentian is far too young for the role, and Adolphine will surely interfere with any attempts to take a bride from Jawanko's archducal family. Not only is she shockingly heartless, but she also has an unquenchable lust for power. She would seethe with envy at the mere thought of one of her half-siblings becoming the first wife of a duchy such as ours. Nahalach's head tilted at a curious angle. If Lady Gentian is too young, could you not take a third wife from elsewhere? It would give her time to grow. A third wife, you say? Indeed, take a bride from a branch family of a top-ranking duchy, or an archduke candidate from a middle-ranking duchy, with plans to one day demote her to third wife. You have many more candidates for third wives. Given the urgency with which we needed to expand Corinthstown's archducal family, focusing on taking a third wife was an excellent decision. Jawanko outpaces other duchies in adoptions, and talent is so abundant within its archducal family that the seat of Ob is fiercely contested. Nahalach continued. Brothers and sisters form strong bonds through their shared mothers, which leads to bitter rivalries among half-siblings. I see. There is bound to be an Archduke candidate among them who will give their elder or younger sister to me in exchange for becoming the next Ob Jawanko over Adolphine's brother Ortwin. My status as former royalty will prove advantageous in building a lasting and cooperative engagement with Jawanko. I would soon gain the public's sympathy once they learned that Adolphine was a power-hungry woman, unwilling to support a crown prince, and so heartless that she abandoned her husband the moment he came upon hard times. Wasn't the whole marriage political? If it was for love, then yes, I can understand the whole abandoning your husband thing, but no. This was merely political. You knew it. Everybody else most likely knew it, because that's usually how marriages go, is they're political in nature. They're rare for being married for love. Even with Adolphine's grievances, I can cultivate a productive relationship with Jawanko through her opposing half-siblings. Its Ob would surely cooperate once I made the value I could offer his duchy clear. Yes, this is a solution worth considering, I said with a nod. Nahalach's face lit up at my response. What? Lord Stitcheswald sent my scholar from the meeting room, hurrying into my office with a board in hand. Something terrible has happened at the Royal Academy. To seek the retainer's expression, I could tell who was to blame. I thought back to my days at the Royal Palace, recalling the many times scholars had approached me with serious news. It's not Rosamund this time. Incidents during winter when manpower is low can usually be traced back to Rosamund. Not Rosamund this time. It's Hannelore. Her experience as High Bishop had given her a wealth of knowledge about prayers and religious ceremonies, which, combined with her obsession with books, paved the way for her to obtain the Grudershite. When it was decided that she would become the king's adopted daughter, due to the high chance of her acquiring the Grudershite from the Royal Academy's library, she attached conditions to her adoption, as I informed her she would become the third wife of the next king. Then, last year, she had vanished from the Royal Academy and returned with a body that was drastically more mature. The gods' work, she had said. The next thing anyone knew, she had declared that she was going to rescue Ferdinand, treated the proposal magic tool I gave her as proof of royal approval. I mean, that's what she saw it as. She didn't treat it that way she thought it was. Being kind of socially inept on that one. And then publicly reduced the tool to gold dust. Yeah, haha. Did he even make that tool? Or was that one of his scholars' work? If that was his doing, then they were not fit to be married anyway. It was her abnormal actions and complete lack of consideration that made her stand out so much. Since her enrollment, she had become the divine avatar of Mestanora, disregarded my authority as Crown Prince by bestowing the Grudershine on Eglantine instead of me, and established her own duchy as the Ob of Alexandria. And now her rampage continues. Letting out a short sigh, I accepted the board from the scholar and sealed my resolve. Its message was both far beyond and completely in line with my expectations. Dragonor, the goddess of time, descended into Hannelore. She demanded to see Rosemind and departed with her. I passed the board to the other scholars in the room and sighed again. My thoughts raced for a solution, only to quiet as I realized that as Ob Karinstam, it no longer fell to me to fret about the affairs of the Royal Academy. It was in fact a relief to be free from the same breed of chaos that had caused the child to suddenly vanish before a statue and return transformed into a young woman. What exactly does this mean? Nahalaj asked as she read the board next. It is more ambiguous than a report from the Royal Academy should be, the scholar noted. Also confused. We should take the message literally, I said. More likely than not, a blunt explanation was the only way to convey the absurdity of what happened. Suspecting falsehoods would simply be a waste of your time. My time spent navigating Rosemind's madness as a member of royalty had taught me plenty about what to expect from her. If my suspicions were correct, then a goddess truly had descended to summon her. The most important aspect of this news to me is that Dragonor descended into Hannelore, I continued. It should be a cause for great celebration that a goddess chose someone other than Rosemind. The gods have not abandoned me after all. They have created a new divine avatar just for me. Oh god, this guy. Someone needs to smack some sense into him, please. If she had served as a host for Dragonor, then I suspected that Hannelore had the potential to invoke the goddess of wisdom as well. As a former crown prince, I needed to make her mine. She had too much potential to marry anyone else. Contact our students at the Royal Academy at once, I said. Have them spread rumors post-haste. What kind of rumors? If we re-emphasize the fact that archnobles are not worthy of one chosen by the gods, Hannelore's suitors should give up on her for fear of what society might think. A mere archduke candidate could wed archnobles of a branch family within her duchy, but a divine avatar, it's only right for her to marry royalty. You are not royalty anymore, sir! You are an Ob. You are not royalty anymore. Get that through your thick skull. By that logic, she would need to wed Anastasius, Hildebrand, our father, or me. Not Anastasius, he's already married. He can't marry anyone else. Hildebrand's too young. Don't know about the father being too old. I don't think he would anyway. And no, not Sigurd. Eglantine the Zent could always take another husband, but Anastasius was in no position to take a second wife. That's what I'm saying. Father already had 3 wives, and Hildebrand was both too young for Hannelore and already engaged to Letizia by royal decree. I was the perfect choice. You're the only choice. Especially since I had intended to marry Hannelore to begin with. Spread word to the populace, the second divine avatar marrying anyone but a royal will sow the seeds of war in Jurgenschmidt once again. Give them every reason to question and criticize Dunkelfelder. Understood. Seek help from Hoschlitz, Glissenmeyer, and Blumenfield, I said. We must make it seem as though this perspective is the norm, not just from our own creation. Don't think your father would be okay with this. Securing their assistance should be trivial, considering the rewards I will reap upon acquiring a divine avatar. Not really a divine avatar, good sir. Just because she just ascended doesn't mean squat. This isn't like Rosemind's situation. As you wish. If everyone at the Royal Academy agreed that Hannelore's current suitors were unworthy of her, Dunkelfelder will find it even more difficult to justify their engagements. From there, I would propose, and my status as Crown Prince would deter anyone else from pursuing her. Once the rumors are circulating, we need to submit a formal petition to Dunkelfelder, I continued. No longer will we be dealing with the backward duchy of Ehrenfest. An Archduke candidate from Dunkelfelder will surely understand the logic of complying with us. I would propose in short order and work out the particulars with Hannelore's father during the interduchy tournament. Then the Zent would approve the engagement as part of the Archduke conference. You're saying this is thinking that Eglantine would agree with this. I doubt it. By then, a year would have passed since my divorce. No judge could claim that I was acting in haste. No sooner had the scholar set out for the teleportation hall to send my response to the Royal Academy than I turned my attention to my head attendant. Proper groundwork will need to be laid such that my engagement to Hannelore can progress smoothly. Contact Anastasius. Having the Zent declare that I am the most ideal partner for the new divine avatar will aid me greatly. Understood. I will also like some father support if possible. Because the royal family's crimes regarding Lancelot have never been made public, society at large believed that father had peacefully abdicated the throne to Eglantine once she was given the Gruderscheid. As it stood, many lesser and middle duchies still valued his opinion over that of the new Zent, who openly favored Rosamund and Dunkelfelger over pre-existing duchy relationships. We should also have father speak with Dunkelfelger, I said. Lady Magdalena becoming his first wife should make it easier for him to pass on our request. In the end, both Anastasius and father refused me. I do not believe Ab Dunkelfelger will allow his daughter to marry into Karinstam after hearing how Adolphine was treated, the former said. Furthermore, the Zent has stated that she has no intention of giving Dunkelfelger orders on this matter. To think such words would come from kind, obedient Anastasius. Perhaps staying in the royal family as the Zent's husband had gone to his head. By all rights, I should have risen to power, or at least married the woman who did instead of me. Irritation surged through me at the thought that my little brother had forsaken the throne for love, only to end up with both. I erred in letting him be with Eglantine. He should have married Adolphine in my stead. It was too late to regret such ancient choices, but I should never have prioritized my affection for my brother over my own security. If I had married Eglantine, I would have been the husband of the highest authority in the country, and I would not have needed to cast Adolphine aside for all her willfulness and greed. Father's response had taken a more severe tone. It was your own shortcomings that kept you from becoming the Zent. You could not pay the divine avatar Messinora the respect she deserved, nor could you build a healthy relationship with Adolphine. Not a word of any new engagement of yours shall pass my lips. I am an Ob now, not the Zent. I have my own duchy to manage, and I will not anger Dunkelfelger for your sake. Despite his harsh rebuke, I saw nothing wrong with my treatment of Adolphine during our engagement. Our union had served a purpose, to bring more mana into the royal family, and the birth of my child would not have let you come first. In fact, why was the blame being thrust upon me? Our entire family had given her administrative duties to complete, and we had all gained from the mana she provided us. How shameless my father must be to turn on me for my actions despite having enjoyed the fruits of my engagement. I refuse to be the only one penalized. By the look on your face, I assumed their responses were far from ideal, Nahalaj observed. Indeed, Father and Anastasius have chosen simply to watch as we fight to keep our heads above water. Do you not think it wrong of them to abandon their own family? I sighed. I would never have guessed they were so heartless, that their own flesh and blood means so little to them. Nahalaj gave a resigned smile. Perhaps Lord Trollqual does not have the leeway to assist you. The land of old Workstock, now part of Blumenfield, was utterly ravaged, and its people harbor a deep-seated resentment toward the former royal family. Not to mention, maybe those of Blumenfield wish to secure the new divine avatar for themselves? Her speculation sent a chill down my spine. I had dismissed Hildebrand out of hand, deeming him too young to marry Hannelore. What if she waited for him to come of age? As cousins, they had met even before his baptism, and their time together in the Royal Academy's library committee had made them closer than most students. As the coup de grace, the boy's mother, father's first wife Magdalena, hailed from Dunkelfelger. If, as Nahalach suspected, Blumenfield sought to take the second divine avatar for themselves. Such a connection would prove invaluable. To be completely fair, Hildebrand would probably be the best choice when it came to the former royals. Because, they know each other a lot better than any of the others. Though, second choice, if she had to pick someone from the former royal family, Trollqual could possibly be one. But, yeah. I might have been a more suitable partner in terms of age, but my Glistenmeyer heritage put me at a considerable disadvantage. Just as I desired a Gruderscheid from Hannelore... Huh? Don't you mean Rosamund? What, you think that Hannelore being a divine avatar would get you a Gruderscheid? Are you stupid, dude? You stupid. Hildebrand might seek to repair his inferior staff. How would that would that even be possible? In such a case, I could see Blumenfield resorting to any means to secure her. Against the country's former Zet and Magdalena, I could barely stand a chance. I would have liked to wait for our rumors to spread, but alas, I cannot let them get ahead of me, I said. I shall submit a formal proposal to Dunkelfelger post-haste. Understood. Determined not to surrender the second divine avatar to another duchy, I had proposed without a moment's hesitation. Dunkelfelger had yet to respond. What could be taking so long, I grumbled. Perhaps they are waiting for Lady Hannelore to regain consciousness? It is a father's right to decide whom his daughter marries. Whether she is conscious is irrelevant. Dunkelfelger's absurd approach to decision-making exasperated me. Delaying a response to a former royal was unforgivable. Dude, you are way you need to get off that high horse of yours. Despite being a Dunkelfelger noble, her suitor's father will need to be placated, as Scholar explained. An immediate response might be too much to hope for. In hindsight, rather than submitting a proposal, it might have been better to wield my authority as a former royal and order that Hannelore become my wife. Dunkelfelger could then have used my demand to silence any complaints from his family. It was a most unfortunate oversight. How goes our endeavor to spread rumors through the academy, I asked the scholar. Have we kept Dunkelfelger from being able to rush an engagement with Hannelore's current suitors? Yes, the rumors gained traction and continued to circulate. According to the students' reports, there was a growing consensus that it would be improper for a divine avatar to marry a mere archnoble. I was contemplating my next move when another scholar hurried into my office. Lord Sigiswald, in response from Dunkelfelger, I accepted the letter from the scholar and started to read through it. Drawanko has sought Hannelore's hand and challenged Dunkelfelger to bride-stealing dinner. Yes! Or when you did good. You did good. To that end, we can accept no external proposals. If you wish to marry her as well, then you must also challenge us to bride-stealing dinner. We appreciate your understanding. Bride-stealing dinner? I was at a loss for words, barely able to comprehend the message before me. I read it over and over again, but the text did not change. Lord Sigiswald, what does it say? A scholar asked. It would seem that Drawanko intends to give me no quarter, I said, showing the contents of the letter. Bride stealing dinner? The scholar read aloud, eyes wide with shock. What a brutish way to resolve a proposal from another duchy. This was a matter to be settled through discussion, not by force of arms. Against the battle-hardened front-runner in the duchy rankings, how could lower-ranked duchies ever hope to make their voices heard otherwise? Kerenstam, what do we do? I cannot allow anyone to take the second divine avatar from me. She is key to my ambition of becoming the next Zent. Dude, you are not going to be able to become the next Zent. Not anytime soon. No. Shall we issue our challenge then? The scholars and the knights in the room swallowed at the thought. I gave a single curt nod. One would normally consider it foolish to challenge Dunkelfelger to battle, given their claim to being the Zent's sword. But we can secure victory if we take the right approach. That's so. The proposed game might resemble treasure-stealing dinner, but it differs in one key respect. Dunkelfelger will have a bride to protect, while we will not. Against just Drawanko and Kerenstam, they will surely emerge victorious. But what if more than half the country were to propose? Would they be able to protect Hannelore from such a formidable onslaught? Without a bride to keep safe, we could take an entirely offensive approach. My knights must have recognized our potential for victory because at last they nodded in agreement with me. I closed my eyes and smiled knowingly. We would need to lay as much groundwork as we could before issuing our challenge. Spread the word, I commanded. At once, the scholar replied, brisk and eager. What shall we say? The truth. Make it known that Drawanko's actions have enabled any duchy to challenge Dunkelfelger to bride-stealing dinner. This is the perfect opportunity to propose to the next divine avatar, a chance victory, and she is ripe for the taking. Neither Drawanko nor Dunkelfelger could deny the facts as they stood. If one wished to marry Hannelore, they would need to take part in bride-stealing dinner. At the same time, I continued, exaggerate the strength of the bond the winner will forge with Dunkelfelger. The country's ops had seen for themselves that Eglantine prioritized Dunkelfelger even over her home duchy of Klassenburg, now that the former had secured its place at the top of the rankings. Considering the long-term advantages such a relationship would offer, any duchy would view pursuing Hannelore as a worthwhile endeavor. And on that note, claim that Dunkelfelger, being as obsessed with dinner as they are, will rejoice at having so many challengers. Use their bride-stealing dinner match against Ehrenfest 2 years ago as an example. If we emphasize that the match was between future ops, that it was held at the Royal Academy, and that the relationship between their duchies had only strengthened since, every duchy in Jurgenschmidt will surely want to participate. Oh god. Dunkelfelger's gonna need help. Rosemine might need to help with that. Oh god, I can see Rosemine and Ferdinand teaming up with Dunkelfelger against all the other duchies. Oh my god. That would be a match for the ages. The Lord of Evil against all of Jurgen Schmitz's challengers. Oh god. I want to see that. Do not forget, anything that is not true must be presented as speculation. Ensure that our words cannot be used against us, I said. I doubt Dunkelfelger would criticize us, not when they were guilty of their own trickery. But there is no harm in being cautious. The scholars wasted no time in writing down my instructions. I had to wonder if we could seize victory by any means other than increasing the number of attacking duchies. Hopefully they can wear down our enemy forces. Oh, and what of the first year, I asked, as a certain dinner-obsessed Earth-2 candidate came to mind. Can we use him to fracture Dunkelfelger? I had already been manipulating him into causing trouble at the Royal Academy, intent on knocking his duchy from the top of the rankings, in an especially opportune time to use him. So he was the one who caused the little issues with Rothrig. Okay. He already seems to be causing trouble and unrest in this dormitory. I will instruct the students to goad him further. Good. Tomorrow afternoon we shall challenge Dunkelfelger ourselves. Prepare the documents. As you wish. Content with the scholar's response, I instructed my head attendant to prepare some tea. The past few days had been a nightmare, and I was more than ready for a moment of peace. I want to smack this guy so much. Let's see. Okay, I can actually make this bigger. A comfy life with my family. First, I lower my hands, ready to close the distance between my target and me. Then I wrap my arm around his waist, use my full body weight to pin him down, and... Picture of a girl in love. I guess she is so absorbed in thought that she might as well not be here. I shall observe your conversation to ensure you do not abuse your authority as a member of a greater duchy. Very well. And she pounces on him. No, not even my being here was enough. No, it wasn't enough. Lord Wilfrid, give me engagement tasks. Oh, what? What a relief she relented. If something were to happen between students of mine, I could be held responsible. Hang on. Okay, that was one. Let's see the other. Okay, heart-stopping service. Here we lie, Basquiat, goddess of binding. Bless me with more choices. Hi, how fun! Let's tie all these threads together. Thank you for your aid, but I have enough choices now. Really? Guess I'll start for this round then. As thanks for praying to me, Hannelore, I'll let you choose any man your heart desires. What if my list of suitors never ends? Surely there's a limit. Poor Hannelore. I feel so bad for her. Wait, sorry, who? Lord Wilfrid is such a superb man. Who? He passed court etiquette on the first day of class and consistently qualifies as an honor student. I don't want to study. That's how he is. He doesn't want to study. Not to mention he is kind and so very considerate toward his fiancée. No fair, Rosamund. You always have way easier. No, you're not talking about the same person. Sorry, who are you talking about? Are you talking about my Wilfrid? Who else? Yeah, you both are not talking about the same person. Yeah, Hannelore's vision of Wilfrid was essentially just an illusion. Ooh! Oh, we get to see them. Hold on. Hold on. Damn it. I wanted to make the Wilfrid. There. Okay, so I'm assuming that is Lebowski, Starrett, Wentoke, and that's Dragoner. Oh, Rosemine is wed! Rosemine is married! Okay. Kentros, Rosentarg, Wilfrid, and Ortwin. I hope we get the next book soon. Because that was a roller coaster, and we're about to see an insane game of bride stealing dinner in the next book, most likely. So, yeah, I really do hope that she decides to have she gets Rosemine and Ferdinand's help in this, because she needs it. And that would be such an amazing match for the ages to see the Lord of Evil back in this. I'll see you guys in the next video.